So grade 4s have now entered the time capsule that is 0. Nouvelle being the one that I'll be talking about today. OG Nouvelle was quite a threat during its release in the TCG. Having this godlike ability to tell your opponent no by being able to nullify triggers. Nouvelle. Nouvellified. Sorry. It has a 13k butt. It has the ability to board wipe and turning off those damn 6th damage heals. Nouvelle's ability activates once either player hits 5 damage, so during your turn, she nullifies all trigger effects, so that means even if your opponent hits a draw trigger or a critical trigger, for example, they still will not activate. When looking around on Twitter or Reddit, there seems to be a divide on how peeps want to be building Nouvelle. The deck lists that I'm seeing online seem to be very similar in the grade 1 and 2 sections, but there's usually one big difference. Do you play for the Endos or for the OG Overlords? Both of the builds are different enough that I want to compare the goal, the advantages, and the weakness of each. Now, the build I'm seeing the most is the Endo Build. This seems to be the build that the more elite players are choosing. Twitter Translate is telling me that the lead player who took it the furthest in the most recent championships was Cross Chaser. Basically, this is kind of the same Endo build that you've been seeing, now just with the Nouvelle package. So the goal kind of remains the same of trying to do this repeated Vanguard swinging that at the same time is drawing you cards. The main advantages that I'm seeing with this build is that you have a really big flexibility on who you ride up to. The grade 1 Nouvelle being able to basically turn our Nouvelles in hand into any grade 3 that we need in the deck, which can either be the break ride or preferably a second copy of the end. It allows you to do interesting ride-ups, such as going from the grade 1 Nouvelle, getting whatever grade 3 we need, to Striken, and then from Striken to any of the grade 3s that we need for a certain matchup. Whether that is just purely a bigger Dauntless, being able to swing for 19k in a crit, or a re-standing Endo, if we're able to get a second copy. Then late game, being able to ride up to Nouvelle as a finisher. You're still able to play a 1-of the OG Overlord. He'll mainly just be taking up our 1-of tech spot. Now, the weaknesses that I'm noticing from the deck is that you're not able to play the grade 2 Nouvelle as easily. This is because you're going to be using the grade 1 Nouvelle to get rid of it as soon as possible. That means the grade 2 Nouvelle will not be able to activate its ability if you do not have Nouvelle. Once you go to the grade 4 Nouvelle, you are no longer allowed to ride down. This means going forward, the Endo is a 11k vanilla. Now, comparing this to the no Endo build, originally I thought this would be the stronger build when looking at the deck. Just having that idea in my head that the Endo being the 11k vanilla some games. The goal here being able to ride up to Nouvelle and having Overlord and the grade 2 Nouvelle constantly destroy interceptors seemed like the more powerful way to go. Now, the advantages that this deck brings is your opponent is not going to be able to feel safe with their interceptors, knowing that at any time the grade 2 Nouvelle is going to be able to drop down for just such a low cost of CB1 to be able to pop something, or the OG Overlord coming in and being able to wipe the entire front row and then still make a Vanguard swing is a very scary thing. You can also play a 1-of the Cruel Dragon. Technically, you can also play Yaksha, but Cruel Dragon's just better. Some may say this is a weakness because Cruel Dragon kind of sucks, but it allows you to have this option of a turbo build, which allows you to get to Nouvelle a turn earlier. You're able to get this 1-of the Cruel Dragon, obviously, with the grade 1 Nouvelle. Now, the weaknesses I encountered when I started playing this deck was that having to rely on Nouvelle means you're technically on a 13k vanilla till one of you hits 5 damage. Kind of the biggest glaring issue with the deck is there's no worse feel bad playing Kagero than having to ride OG Overlord. His ability can still activate, obviously, where he can nuke the front row, and him being a, let's say, plus 10k if he was able to ride on top of Dauntless is kind of cool, being able to swing repeatedly with a 21k Vanguard, but not being able to use drive checks is such a neg that it is something that you'd obviously never want to do. There is technically a third build. This is one that I'm kind of seeing go around where you don't play Dauntless at all, where it is for Nouvelle, for the Endo, for OG Overlord, and then 1-of Cruel Dragon. I won't really be going into detail with this though. The reason people are doing this is the discard 3 for Dauntless's ability is a little steep in most plays. Sometimes you just don't want to activate it, and you basically break ride for nothing. We are getting a buff to Dauntless, where the discard 3 becomes a discard 2, which is a lot less stressful to activate, which means you won't have to worry about discarding your PGs as often. And once that comes into effect, I don't see a reason not to play it. So if you want to do that build, I totally understand. It is a totally viable build. I just think Dauntless is already good enough just at the 3 discard. So I want to get as much consistency of playing it so that when the buff comes out, I'm already ready. That's kind of sounds like a bad reason now I'm thinking about it. That kind of tells me how I want this video to end. I don't want to tell you which way to play. I think each player has their own play style, and they like all sorts of builds. Play whatever you can, first of all. Have fun brewing, and enjoy the process. Which, if you're like me, the process leads you to playing the Endo, because it's just stronger, honestly. It has results. It